For Sierra Leone because for some of us, this is the only country that we have, and I think the country actually needs prayers. Let's also don't relent. Over time, our leaders have informed us that indeed we are a resilient nation, we are resilient people. We continue to be resilient, Fabian, and hope for the better.
Yeah. But would continue the program now. In the studio, we have Olive Musa, Director of Non-Formal Education from the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education on the conversation for the World Literacy Day. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
So it was on the 8th September, World Literacy Day. Could we begin by understanding literacy? We keep talking about mixed multitude of literates and illiterates. What is literacy?
Well, literacy is the reading and writing in any language with understanding. So when you say somebody is literate, that person should be literate in any of the languages. And if that person is able to communicate effectively, then we'll say that person is literate.
This sounds a bit different from the context we always put literacy, often coming off to mean someone who's educated. We put it at people who are literate or people who have formal education.
It goes beyond that. Yeah, literacy is just an aspect or a component of education. Somebody can be educated, but that person is not literate. For example, I'll be educated in carpentry. I'll be educated in masonry, but I don't know how to read and write in any particular language. That will help me to do my work effectively. So when you say literacy, it's just a component of education, I would say.
When you take a keen look at the theme for this year, which speaks to promoting multilingual education, where is Sierra Leone in terms of same? Where are we in terms of promotion of a multilingual education? Where are we?
I would say where over the years we introduced multilingual languages.
Okay.
In fact, presently we have for the international languages, we have Arabic and French that are taught in schools. In addition to that, we have about 4 languages, local languages, indigenous languages. That is Mende, Temne, Limba, and Creole that are taught in schools. But you will realize that some people really do not have the interest in learning the language, in being literate in the indigenous languages. I would say maybe because of the functionality of the language, since we have been introduced to English by our colonial masters, so everybody is craving to acquire literacy in English. So I would say we are still not there. When you compare us to other countries like Nigeria, like Kenya, you will see that even when you are traveling, you will see that before you arrive, maybe you are at the airport, you hear them speaking the indigenous language, the Kenyan language. And even in the flight, you will see them, when they will be translating so that everybody will understand. But in Sierra Leone, we are still not there, I would say. But we don't have to lose hope. I'm sure if all of us, it's not just maybe the Ministry of Education, but all partners, all public organizations, if we endeavor, and even private institutions, even like AOIV, if we say we want to promote indigenous languages, I'm sure we'll get there.
Another school of thought will say, most times these lingua franca are not commonly spoken within ourselves. Say, for instance, for some of us that went to those schools, when we were coming up, you were opportunity to be taught Arabic at your prelim stage, and at some point in time, French. But whilst you go along, you hardly find people who speak this language. And so it becomes even difficult for you to even continue with that trend. At some point in time, my co-host, Fabian, was speaking French. I had to ask, what were you saying? And she had to interpret. See, at some point in time, I know a bit of Chinese. But because there are not too many people around me that will speak Chinese, it's as gradually eroded off my head. Could that be one of the problems? And again, do we have qualified tutors that will teach the kids in school these languages?
For the 4 languages, the indigenous languages I have talked about, we have teachers that do teach the kids. But like I said, it is the functionality of the indigenous language. Because if you use the indigenous language, maybe in our banks, in our public places, people will crave to learn the language.
Right.
They will crave to acquire that language, the skill in that particular language. But if we are not using it as a national language, maybe like we are using English, people will lose interest. People will not. Even for our literacy programs that we have, we used to have literacy programs, you know, in the country, you know, where indigenous languages were being taught. But the learners, the adult learners will say, no, I want to learn English. Because when I go to the bank, I have to sign my name in English. So I want to learn English. So you find out that people go in more for English language, to learn the English language, rather than having our indigenous language, which I think we have a rich cultural heritage. If we work towards that as Sierra Leoneans, I'm sure we'll be able to maintain peace. Because, for example, if I am Mende, but I'm able to speak Themne or any of the other languages, if I go to those communities, for example, and I'll identify myself, people will easily accept you when you speak their own language. You are more accepted in those communities when they see that you are speaking their own language. But if you go there with an interpreter, sometimes, you know, people will not readily accept you. But if you're speaking their own language, they will accept you and you are welcome. Even if you go with programs, people are happy to have you in that community.
What makes it a lot easier to pick languages? It's you know, it's easier for children to learn new languages than it is for adults, because the younger they are, the easier it is for them to, you know, grasp certain things. But some of these languages are only taught at secondary schools and upper levels, not even at primary schools. We're not catching them young.
Yes, well, that's a policy matter. I think we have to go in for policies that will enforce the indigenous languages. Because if we don't have a policy, or even if there is a policy but we don't enforce that policy, I am sure the kids are not going for it. Like in the Becker exam, we had some of the kids that went in for the indigenous languages, for the 4 languages, the indigenous languages I have spoken about. But there were not many of them. But if it is compulsory, but it has to be compulsory, and then you will see that everybody will go in. And if, for example, we say, before ever, maybe there are projects, you have to have this number of languages, or you have to be able to read and write. It's not just speaking it, but you should be able to read and write that language. Then you are qualified to have this project. or you are qualified to have this loan, there must be some criteria for you to access some of these opportunities that are maybe given by government. So I would say for us to promote the indigenous languages, first of all, we have to have policies, and those policies should be enforced in schools as well as maybe at the university level as well, and teacher training colleges, because these are the areas where our teachers are being taught. But if we don't start it there, it is not being taught, or it is not effective in the universities, in the teacher training colleges, I am afraid we are not going to achieve what we want to achieve in terms of acquiring literacy in the indigenous languages.
Just out of curiosity, how many languages do you speak? I mean, local languages.
I speak Mende.
And what?
I speak Creole.
And again?
A bit of Temne. I will not boast of it, because all of us are guilty of not acquiring our language, our indigenous languages, because some of us, we don't cherish it. We just think that the English language is the best, like we are not speaking. We are not even talking about this is promoting multilingual languages, but now I am speaking English.
How do you capture the households when learning as well? There's a significant aspect of learning that takes place at home. You'll find that most of these homes now, it's English. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are just, I don't understand for whatever reasons, they teach their kids to speak English. Mm-hmm. Some don't even allow them to communicate in Creole. It's English, English all day. Talk less of our indigenous languages, Mende, Timini, Fula. So you see that there is a generation of young people now who have come to a point where it's difficult to understand our other languages, and there are still the toddlers. We're raising just English, English, English. How do you get households, parents, guardians to jump on the train with this?
It has to start with a policy, enforcing the policy to say that we should, and parents should also come on board. We should have maybe some form of mass literacy campaign in the indigenous languages, to tell people, to tell the parents that it is important that we start teaching our kids the indigenous languages, or the dominant language that is within that community. For example, if I'm Mende, I should be speaking Mende to my kids. You will find out that if you teach kids in the indigenous language in school, it is easy for them to acquire a second language, which is English, or a foreign language, which is French, or even the other languages, because they can communicate better. You can learn theories, you can learn, you can even read your notes, if you know the language. Like when I was in college, my supervisor used to tell me that if you really want to understand what you are reading, start to interpret your notes in the language you understand. He said when you start that, he said then you are able to understand, and then you can translate it into English. And I found it useful. Even with my dissertation, I used to look at it because I was going to present my dissertation. I used to do it, in my own language. And after that, I will practice it, and then I will now transcribe it and translate it into English. So you see, we have to talk to parents. Our parents have to be aware that the indigenous language is very useful for their kids. And that will even bring maybe, unity, harmony amongst them within the community. Okay. But if it is just English, English, in English, it means that we are not valuing our own culture. And that is what is happening in Sierra Leone. I have seen some parents, they will say, I don't let you talk Creole. I don't let you talk. It's only English. Creole will spoil your English language. That's what some parents would say. So I am using this media this morning so that parents who are in the habit of maybe telling their kids not to speak Creole at home, or parents who are speaking Creole at home, or maybe the other are not speaking Creole, but they are Creoles or they are Mendes or the other languages, please speak your local language, your indigenous language to your kids so that they can understand you better, so that they are able to acquire that skill which will take them to learn a second language, which is English, when they go to school.
As we try to wrap up these segments, Olive, how much of a premium do you think we should place on these languages? So in other words, do you think it has a propensity to drag in development by the use of these local languages?
I think so. It will not only bring in development, but it will bring in a mutual understanding and peace. Like I said earlier, if I speak your language, if I come to you and you are, you know, Mende, for example, or you are Timne, I speak Timne to you, you know, you are more comfortable with me. But if, you know, so we all should endeavor to learn each other's language because we want peace in Sierra Leone. If we move towards that, I'm sure we are able to have sustainable peace, as well as we'll be able to drive sustainable development. Sierra Leone will be developed because we are all, if where there is peace, we know that there is development, and it has to start with the language that we speak. We have to accept each other. We have to respect each other's language. We have to appreciate each other's language. We should endeavor to learn each other's language so that we are all together, so that we can drive peace and development in this country.
I think we have a few messages on our Facebook page. Let me just see the need to go through some. First from my end is from Joby Bangali Jr. He says, it's easier for kids to learn new languages, but also don't forget adults travel out of Sierra Leone to non-English speaking countries. And after a few years, they master the language in that country.
Mystic Dwazak says promoting multilingual languages is good, but it is a big problem because we don't have the centers in Sierra Leone that are providing such facilities, especially in major towns.
Usman Prince Suleiman Kavoni says, we've placed too much value on English.
Connaught District Advocacy Network says, I think we should try to deviate from these colonial references. Instead of colonial masters, we can say colonial exploiters.
Last for my end is from Swissman Swiss. I think he's commending you. He says, the woman in the studio is beautiful with a golden brown color. God bless you, ma. And God bless AYV, who gave who gave him the opportunity to see you.
Ngoloji says, in Sierra Leone, when you like expressing yourself in your local language, they see you being tribalistic. The Mendes are seen tribalistic because they like speaking the Mende language. Picking on them during the years has shown a lack of interest in the kids, especially in the urban areas.
Are you done? Okay. Last from my end is from Mohamed Alhaji Kuruma. He says, you'll see a Fula and Madingo people giving birth in the US and Europe, but still their children will speak the language.
Usman Prince Sulaiman Kavoni says, the Chinese, USA, and all first world nations teach in their language, which gives them the ability to learn faster and better understand any subject matter.
Do you still want to take over?
Ngoloji says the Chinese are mostly Asian countries do everything in their local languages, but they have everything.
Sure.
And finally, Muhammad Alaji Kouma says, that is why somehow I have to give praises to the Fula and Madingo and Temini in the rural areas. they always speak it with their children, especially the Fula and the Madingo. It's a must. Yeah, those are all those messages you can respond to.
Just respond in brief to the messages we've just heard.
Yes, so I think these are just commendations and they have come up with to support what we are saying here. I would say that we have to ensure that these policies, if there are policies, we should enforce those policies to ensure that every school, every public place, you know, wherever, you know, we have so many people, and even the literacy programs that we have, we should endeavor to strengthen them. I want to respond to somebody who said that there are no centers to learn. We have the Institute of Sierra Leonean Languages, TISU.
Where is it located?
It's located at somewhere at Wilkinson Road. They are one of our partners. That they are partnering with the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. They are promoting indigenous languages. I think they have also written orthographies, I think in like 6 or 7 languages. They are promoting that. I think widely in the north and even in Kono, they have some centers around there that are promoting these indigenous languages. I would say we have some centers, even though they are not very effective, but TISUL is doing very well. Probe College, they are also promoting languages, the indigenous languages. So I want all of them that made the comments so that we can come together. There is need for us to come together, maybe to borrow a page from other countries like Nigeria, Ghana. You see, if you go to Ghana, in their hotels, in the Kenya, you see, you know, the indigenous, they will write their languages, you know, and paste it on the walls, everywhere you go, you see if there is even English, there is their local language. I think that is what we should start in Sierra Leone. Okay. Let us start this. I don't want it to end today. You know, we have just started because our theme for this year, which UNESCO has come up with, as announced, is promoting multilingual languages. And like I said, in order to promote literacy or to promote mutual understanding and peace, please let us promote multilingual languages.